even is a referendum, lol? Okay, cool. So a referendum is basically a nationwide question in basic terms, to where the public is asked to answer a question, and the answers that you can provide are literally yes and no. So they're not asking you to do much, but it is a really big change because a referendum is only needed when we need to change the constitution.
Really simply, a referendum is a way to ask all people across Australia, all citizens across Australia, a question about the direction we want to take the country.
And so we will be doing a national referendum at the end of the year, and whoever wrote this, you have to vote, lol.
Next question is, aren't First Nations people divided on this? Why should we vote yes?
I'm in the yes camp, and I stand alongside over 80% of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people across the country who will also vote yes.
There are some blackfellas out there who are going, I'm a little bit worried about this, I'm a bit nervous about this, and that makes complete sense because the government hasn't always done the right thing by Indigenous people, and there's a sense that maybe treaties should come first. Their voices are really important in this debate, and we should really listen to that. But I'd make the point that what we're seeing, the best evidence we have is that the significant majority of Aboriginal people support the idea of the voice to Parliament, and so we most definitely should be listening to all those voices.
Question 3. There's not enough detail. What actually is it? There's heaps of detail out there on the internet.
There's a huge report that talks exactly about how this might work called the Karma and Langton report. Gives you really great details and even pictures around how this will work. The idea that there's not enough detail is rubbish, really.
Start with Thomas Mayer's book. That's a great start. There's been a book written about why this is a good thing. So start with that. If I vote yes, does that mean my council rates will go up?
Really? That's really not a question, is it? Of course not.
Definitely not.
Absolutely not.
A lot of the rhetoric around why we shouldn't say sorry, why we shouldn't allow native title, why we shouldn't even engage in treaty or the voice, is that it will somehow open up the floodgates for all Indigenous people to claim all of their land back and start charging rent, that we'll lose our backyards, that we'll lose the right to our freeways and our highways. It's all nonsense. It won't affect our council rates.
The most important thing to remember is that the voice is advisory. It can't force anything on anyone. The parliamentarians that we elect still decide those things.
I don't want to vote yes if it means Indigenous people won't get a treaty. Oh, this is a good point.
Voting yes for voice doesn't mean that we lose out on treaty. So I'm right there with you on that one.
Well, treaties are already underway. In Victoria, for example, the treaty process has been going for more than a decade. A Liberal state government in Tasmania has begun the treaty process there. In Queensland, the treaty process has begun with bipartisanship. Treaties are underway in the Northern Territory. They're well underway. But the experts, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous, say that treaties are going to take 30 to 40 years. So why would we wait for a treaty to fix things like housing, like justice, like health and education and employment? Those are the things that the voice will concentrate on, and they can concentrate on those things and make a difference as soon as we get this voice up this year.
The voice will divide Australia and create inequality.
Right now in Australia, we are dying younger than every other demographic. Our kids are filling our prisons. We're not finishing high school. There are so many terrible key markers for First Nations people in this country, and it is not getting better. So anything has got to be better than the current. And specifically listening to people who are at the coalface of it and being affected, rather than some politician in Canberra who's probably never even hung out in the black community for more than a minute. Let's actually be real about this and not listen to these lies.
One of the things that I think will be the great benefit of an overwhelming yes answer to the referendum is that it joins us all together under the Constitution and brings Indigenous Australians into the fabric of the nation, and it alleviates non-Indigenous people of the need to feel guilty about it. By recognising us in the Constitution and giving us a voice, we're all putting the past behind us and saying, well, come on, let's just fix this problem.
If you've got a part of your community that's experiencing all this, then we can't grow as an Australian nation. When we've got everybody at the table having discussions about our own future and about everything that we can contribute together, Indigenous perspectives, non-Indigenous perspectives, the perspectives of migrants, the perspectives of young people, old people, people from so many diverse backgrounds. When everyone gets a say, we get better results.
Can you please tell me if it's true that non-Indigenous Australians will have to pay more to live here? Seems like a scary idea during a cost of living crisis.
No. The answer is no.
The voice can only advise Parliament. So the fear-mongering that is being heard about paying the rent or those types of things are unfounded.
Cost of living is just a nightmare, but the voice is going to have no bearing on that.
This is actually a cost-saving measure to enshrine the voice in the Constitution because it guarantees that Indigenous people can have a say. And Indigenous people don't want waste in our communities. We don't want to see money that is meant for our benefit going to the wrong people. We want to see it reaching the ground where our people need it most. We want to see those gaps in health and education and employment closed so our children can live better lives. And so the voice is important to efficiencies, it's important to stopping wastage, it's important to promoting programs and policies that are working and improving lives. So the voice is going to save money and also save lives.
How does the voice benefit Australia as a whole?
Now, that's a really good question. And it will benefit Australians and Australia as a whole immensely because all Australians, can share in our rich, ancient, contemporary cultures. It's your backyard too.
I believe that by enshrining the voice into the Constitution, we are not only acknowledging Aboriginal people as the First Nations people of Australia, but we are also allowing them to be given a better opportunity of thriving and succeeding. And it's not going to personally affect non-Indigenous Australians, but it is going to, I believe, close a gap or help close a gap between non-Indigenous Australians and Indigenous people, which I think is the Australia we all want.
This is our chance to start to right the wrongs of the past. Our people, my people, right across this continent, the first people of this country who walked these lands when dinosaurs roamed the same lands, who saw volcanoes erupt and crossed the land bridge from Tasmania to the mainland. So our people have been on this continent older than the ancient Greeks and the ancient Egyptians, and we deserve this voice. We deserve to have some standing in our own country, and our culture can be our gift to the rest of Australia.
But how do all mobs get represented and not just the inner circle in Canberra? That's a really great question because I think it's one that people get confused with. They think it's just going to be a bunch of wanky people like me in suits sitting around making decisions about things we have no idea about. But the idea that's mapped out is that communities get to decide not only who they elect, but how they do that at a local and regional level. And I think that's so important that people understand that.
It's such a good question because, again, I like my mob, my family come from outback New South Wales, a little place called Walgett. I live in a town called Wagga Wagga, halfway between Sydney and Melbourne. What community, or who represents my community?
When I was designing the voice here in Victoria, that was a considered thing that we had to make sure. And so we came up with a democratic process. So all mobs are represented, and I have no doubt that's what the voice will look like.
The voice will be another failed government project. How is this any different to ATSIC? ATSIC wasn't enshrined in the Constitution. ATSIC was a commission that was set up by the government of the time to address Indigenous matters, to deal with Indigenous affairs. It was then dismantled.
The failure has been of government to want to listen to Indigenous people. The failure has been that governments have used our lives as a political football. We're like any other human group. We're capable of having a voice. We're capable of having representation. We're capable of representing our people's interests and speaking up and coming up with solutions.
Why do we need a voice when there are already Indigenous members of Parliament, 1, 2 or 3 or 4 members within Parliament who are First Nations do not make up a collective viewpoint or a diverse viewpoint when it comes to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Australia.
Why is this a referendum? We should just do it. I love that.
I agree. I feel like it should just be done by now.
Agree.
The brilliant thing about making it a referendum is that, look, hopefully when it gets up, Australia can actually get together and go, yeah, we chose this together.
Legislation alone is vulnerable to the Parliament. We have seen many Indigenous voices established since the 1920s that have been established under one government and silenced by the next. So this is about permanency. The only way we do that is by the Australian people saying that we want Indigenous people to be recognised and have a voice in the Constitution.
Before you vote.
Before you vote.
Before you vote.
Before you vote, Australia.
Ask us first.
Authorised by Melissa Castan, Castan Centre for Human Rights Law, Monash University, Clayton.